And we got to meet in person in San Francisco, which was really nice.
I missed that trip.
I know, Ben.
I know,
missed.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll be on the next one.
And I'll miss that one.
You guys will, though.
I know.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Thanks for having me on. I don't think I've podcasted on a Walking Dead episode before. I've only done Stephen Yun related material outside of Walking Dead.
You're a Yun correspondent. We're like, yeah.
Although, a Yun correspondent.
I guess so.
You recommended Talk Easy, the interview with Stephen Yun, when you were covering Beef on the Walking Dead cast. Great episode. Hadn't ever thought of listening to Talk Easy before. And yes, Stephen Yun gave a really good interview there. And he spoke a lot about what the Walking Dead meant to him in like a really kind of respectful but honest way. And I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have listened to this right before starting Dead City. I was like, but yeah, it was good.
I'm so curious to like what he thinks about it all, but obviously he's going to be professional and not really say anything.
Maybe he's Team Negan. Maybe he's like, you know what? I think Maggie's overreacting.
Well, I mean, while we're talking about this, I can say like I know that he was very. I mean, there are people who never read the comics or knew what the comics were and knew the events that were going to transpire between Negan and Glenn. But I know Stephen Yun was somebody who was incredibly excited to get to that moment in the series because of how monumental it was in the comic books. You know, he didn't want to die under a dumpster. He wanted to die by Negan's hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's just done so much amazing stuff since then that I think it's just so amazing to see where he's going to go next and what he's doing. And Beef was great, and all love for Stephen Yun.
I'm the same. Like he was great in Nope.
Oh yeah.
Humans was another fantastic movie that he did. Like he's I'm glad to see he's doing his thing. He's got some work going.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in regards to Dead City. Season 1, episode 2, Knock Knock, as you mentioned. Overall thoughts on the episode? First off, since you guys weren't on last week, what were your thoughts on last week's episode on the premiere of the series?
Do you want to go ahead? Oh, okay. I was going to say, I thought I've been falling into a habit lately of saying that things are coming out swinging or coming in swinging, and I hate using that phrase in relation to Negan. So it did come out swinging. I thought it was a really strong start. I was quite impressed. I've given up on Fear, although I think Jason and I might cover the finale of Fear when it comes. And I was kind of not sure what I was anticipating with Dead City, and it seemed to come quite quickly, but I did enjoy it. I think my main kind of beef with it is I really liked the ending they gave Maggie and Negan in the main show. But I think by the nature of this show, they had to sort of undo that a little bit and amp it up again. I think it would have been a very boring show if they were just like,
oh, we're friends. Let's do this together.
Someday you can come and help with the Croat, but some days I won't be able to look at you. You know, like, okay, that's just like not that engaging to watch. So I have some. I'm glad I'm not doing it every week because I think, Jason and I, for those who've listened to the main show, know that we've got quite a strong stance on Negan. And there's some stuff in this episode that'll be interesting to talk about with that in mind. But I've enjoyed it more than I expected, and particularly last week's I thought was a good intro, a really good kind of, I don't want to say pilot, but a good first episode.
Okay. How about you, Karen?
I sent in feedback last week, and I was more, I was a little more like tedious about it than excited, but because they did retread a lot of things, and like you, Lucy, I thought that they ended that Maggie and Negan's dynamic perfectly in the series finale. But now that you're saying it, like I agree with you, they had to amp up the stakes more and build tension and friction there. So I think I was just jarred with some things like New Babylon or that dive bar that had like all this electricity and even though they said they had a generator, but I was like, this doesn't feel like Walking Dead. It feels like any other like CSI show, but maybe that was the point. Like this is a totally new show set apart from The Walking Dead proper. And then I felt like it was pretty dark. There were no moments of like lightness in the first episode. So it was kind of hard for me to get through like all the bickering. But the second episode, I kind of yeah.
No, I was just going to say,
I'm relieved by the second episode.
Let's go into it now. I mean, overall thoughts on this second episode now that we're getting ready to dive into it and break it down.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it addressed some of my questions from episode 1. At least it gave me hope that they will answer some questions that they set up. And I should have been more patient anyway. That was only episode 1. So, but I liked that it was kind of structured around like different backstories, and it didn't move the plot forward, but we went backwards and like upwards. I thought it was really good, and I really loved it.
I feel like backwards and upwards is a really good summary of this show. It's like we've gone backwards about the characters, but we're going upwards in terms of story, and literally upwards in the city. Yeah. So I like that.
Yeah. Physically upwards as well as upwards in story. So let's get into the breakdown of the episode. And Lucy, why don't you kick us off? What's one of the things about the episode that you kind of wanted to talk about?
I think for me there is like, oh god, I'm probably just gonna have to talk about it first because we need to get it out of the way. There was one thing that Negan said that had me like speed dialing Jason and throwing my computer out the window, which was when he got shitty with Maggie and said, "No, I was only a monster when I had to be."
I knew I knew we were going to talk about this because in last week's episode, I even had the clip ready, and I don't have it ready this week. Yeah. And I said like, oh, this is a conversation that is going to be a dividing point between people. And then watching this episode, hearing that line of dialogue, I'm like, oh, we got another one. This is going to be a dividing point between people.
I understand. One thing I liked Negan getting a bit rattled at Maggie, because sometimes when Negan's properly being like a kicked dog around Maggie, as he was towards the end of season 11, you do feel a bit like, would the Negan that we knew at the start be like this? Would he give a shit, or would he just be still as snarky? So it was nice to see him get defensive, but the defense he gave was just factually wrong. I mean, if that's how he views himself, that's how he views himself. But as viewers, I don't think we can look at it and say he was only ever a monster when he needed to be. If we'd only seen the lineup, and maybe, I don't know, the second lineup where he nearly kills Carl, maybe, but we didn't. We went behind the scenes at the sanctuary and we saw the culture of fear that he bred. We saw the way he punished people who weren't even part of his main kind of henchman gang. We saw one of the most disturbing things I've seen in The Walking Dead is those like women in black dresses all like dolled up as Negan's wives, figuring out if one of them's pregnant or not and what they're going to do about it if they are. So I'm a little bit like, you can tell yourself that, Negan, but I think you did lean into it. And part of me's like, just own it. Like, you did it. Yeah. Like, let's just be... So to have him say, I was only a monster when I needed to be, I'm like, But some of the things you were doing behind the scenes were also monstrous, and the fact you don't see them that way is quite alarming. On the other hand, I did agree with Negan that Maggie's not much fun. I think Herschel would agree as well. I was just like, it's such a bummer being Maggie, because like... God, life is depressing. Like, you have lived through like the worst trauma, and now you're raising this son who's, the spitting image of his dad in a world where his dad's killer gets to go off and have his own family. Like, yeah, that is a massive bummer. But when Negan's like, oh, you're a barrel of laughs, aren't you? I'm like, well, a ball of fun hanging out with you, ain't it? I'm like, he's kind of got a point. Like, she's not good chat. But I do think his line about I was only a monster when I needed to be is very subjective. And I got a bit frustrated with that, because I'm like, please treat us with more credulity than this. Like, we know that that's not the case. Like, I think the problem for me with the redemption is that they're even trying it. Like, we all like anti-heroes. We all like this was a huge topic on Yellow Jackets, was liking problematic people, and I'm like, we can do that, but it's the way the show is trying to tell us that it's not problematic, I think, is the bit where I keep getting stuck and being like, oh duh. But I think that I'm here talking about it and I'm enjoying watching it, but that one line really rankled with me. I was like, maybe that took it a bit too much into the kind of Negan-ometer of, we're really trying to hammer it home to you that he's a good guy. And I'm like, is he though? He doesn't have to be. No one's asking for him to be, but we're trying to make him that way, and that bothers me.
Yeah. Plus, he knew that the Croat toyed with people and pulled them apart, and then he called it a useful skill set. So he kind of enabled that torture. And the Croat seems to have learned from him how to be a mobster and racketeer, and because they're also, getting goods from the New Yorkers right now.
Yeah,
the native New Yorkers. So, I think that line really rattled me as well, because you hear a form of that in real life and it's like too convenient or like too much of an excuse for toxicity. But I'm all about like embracing one's humanity. Like you said, anti-heroes are so fun to watch. It's thrilling to watch Negan. He's super charismatic and one of the best written characters on the show from The Walking Dead. And I'm all about embracing somebody good, bad, and ugly, but we can hold two truths at the same time, that his past was still terrible. And like, why would he have to put on a show to protect his people if there are like 500 saviors surrounding our heroes when they're on their knees? Like, I feel like it's an excuse.
Yeah, and I think the excuse and justification, you can justify anything if you try hard enough. You know, it's the sort of thing, and maybe in the time that's elapsed, he's told himself that it was only because he needed it to be, but I don't think anyone who's watched that sort of what was happening at the sanctuary can say, oh yeah, he was a chill dude the rest of the time and only did horrible things once. I think there's something to be said for the Croat being so sinister that even Negan was like, oh shit, this is too much even for me. Like, I like that as an upping the ante. I like the idea that there's someone that even Negan is like, holy shit, he's a fucking crazy person. But I am a bit like, I liked that he hadn't ironed his face, because I know last week and in the group chat we were like, oh, clearly the Croat's been very much a victim of Negan, like actually punishing him and stuff. And I liked the idea that it was actually just a shot that missed and he shot his ear off, and that's why his side of the face looks like it's been ironed. But
I think Randy had even mentioned that during the podcast last week. He saw that and he believed that he was another victim of Negan's ironing.
It looked like it
as well.
You know, it looked like that kind of way. So I think it's promising, but I just hope the show doesn't do too much of those kind of lines, because I do find it a bit, I'm like, part of me is just like, let's just accept that he was a shit. Like, let's accept that everyone on the show is a shit, that Negan was a particularly odious kind of shit who seemed to enjoy being a shit quite a lot of the time. But let's just take that as our baseline and move on. I think when you start to rewrite history, you get into complicated waters, and that's the bit that I find objectionable in that moment. But it was a great scene between the two of them, and they're acting the hell out of it. So, you know.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback on that a little bit with some of my thoughts on it as well. I don't want to come across as somebody who is fully on board. I mean, I am a fan of Negan as a character. I know we are very divided as far as not just within our group of people, but as viewers all over the place are very divided on, well, do we want a redemption arc for Negan? No, he's a piece of shit who doesn't deserve one. I know people who are not watching the show purely because they don't think Negan deserves any kind of redemption whatsoever. And I'm fully on board with that. You have a right to your opinion, and I don't want it to come across as in I'm on the side of like, no, he's a great guy, he needs a redemption, because there are absolutely shades of gray. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, Lucy, too, that like he's told himself this thing so many times that it's eventually become a lie that maybe he believes himself.
I had to do it.
If you lie to yourself so many times, eventually you start to believe it. And, that might be where Negan is at this moment, where he's like, I only did what I did because I had to do it. I was only a monster when I absolutely had to be. I think he firmly believes that at this point. But even me, who's somebody who's kind of leaned more towards the redemption arc of Negan getting a redemption arc, even the first time I watched this episode, I was like, ooh, you just got done calling out Maggie on her bullshit. And now you're slinging this bullshit to Maggie. Like you're kind of being a little hypocritical about this. But then a little bit later on in the episode, we see that whole moment with the Barazzi coming in.
Oh my God.
And the whole knock knock moment. We do see the Negan of old return. And there's kind of this interesting dynamic that happens when this scene is over. Yes, he does. He puts on that show for the Barazzi. And when he's giving that line, he's delivering that line to Maggie. Initially, you can tell in Maggie's eyes, she doesn't believe a word he's saying. He believes it, but she doesn't.
Right.
But then we get that moment play out with the one Barazzi where he slits his throat, makes it rain, however you want to put it. And there's the moment following afterwards where they make eye contact, where he realizes that Maggie has seen what he's done. There's a moment there with Maggie where Maggie almost starts to believe what he did, what he said was true. He just did this to protect me and to protect all these other people. Maybe there's an element of truth to what he's saying. He did this to protect people. Doesn't make it right, but maybe there's a shimmer that she might be starting to believe it. But on the other hand, there's that moment with Negan where he hangs his head and looks down, and I think it's almost then that he's starting to not believe what he's saying about himself.
That's the only
it's kind of a switch. Initially, Negan believes it and Maggie doesn't, but now it's kind of the roles are reversed. Maggie has an element of maybe belief that what he was saying was true, but he's starting to doubt that element about himself. And I thought that was such a cool and interesting dynamic of these two characters.
Yeah, that was the whole point of those two scenes. It's and that scene was so pivotal because they finally switched places, or not switched places, but see each other from the other person's perspective. Yeah. And that's the only reason why I came away from the episode kind of satisfied and not too hung up on that line, because at that moment in the bathroom, he did 100% believe that he needed to put on a show to protect people. And that's giving us insight into the mind of a narcissist and like how he thinks of himself, the narratives he tells himself. And exactly what you said, Ben, like they switch places and at the end there. So
they kind of start to see where the other one is coming from.
And she takes his advice at the end. Maggie finally tells the truth about their mission. So yeah.
And when he turns around after he's done his whole knock knock thing, which is pretty brutal. Like I was watching it and I was like, I'm probably inured after years of watching The Walking Dead, but damn, this is quite dark. Like I was just like, and I feel like they've upped the viscera in this one, like the guts full. Oh my God, it was brutal. But there was a point where JDM turns round as Negan and it's like, he's off screen, off stage in his mind. He looks kind of sick with himself. He looks old. Like I don't mean that as a like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, God, why are you old now? But like he looks tired. Like he looks like that took a lot out of him. Whereas back in the day, we remember Negan almost like giddy with like the stuff that he was doing and the role he was playing. Now he just seems really defeated. So he can pull it out of the bag, but it seems to take more out of him than it used to. And he seems to feel that moment between the two of them. And it's just such a relief to watch a show where there's so much that is unsaid that we can read in as viewers. I think maybe that's another reason the line bothered me, is because I was like, nah, don't spoon feed us this. Let us read into what they're doing and how they're behaving. Don't go too far down that road. But yeah.
I'm also bothered because like I feel like some people or a small segment of people are going to take the wrong things away from that knock knock part. Yeah. Like, oh, it's so cool he's doing this, and the writers have always made Negan and his monstrosity more palatable by giving him jokes and doing all this bravado. And I feel like some people might take away just the toxicity part of it.
Because I mean, not to sound like a husband from the 1950s, but Maggie, come on, smile. Like, I'm joking. She absolutely should not smile. She's going through hell. But I did sort of think, like, for Negan, this is probably really not fun because, like, he likes people you can banter with, and Maggie is giving him absolutely nothing. Quite right that she's not, but you do get a sense that they're coming at it just completely different ways of embodying trauma.
I feel like, I don't want to get too much on a tangent, but I feel like they nerfed Maggie a lot in this episode too. I guess nerfing is what the kids call like when they make somebody weaker or more incapable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like she should be smarter than this and actually use the other people as a resource, but she's like, we could have put a bullet in their heads. And Negan had to tell her that no, we can use them for information and stuff. And she just seemed to be, maybe it is because she's not in the right headspace with Herschel being gone. But
I'm kind of glad you brought this up, because if it's all right, I kind of want to jump to this point for a minute. Because between Maggie and Negan, if there was any one character I actually had more issues with than the other this episode, it's actually Maggie. And I hate saying that because I love Maggie as a character and I adore Lauren Cohan as an actress. But there were a couple issues that I saw with Maggie. There's one in particular that really kind of gave me a little bit of an issue. It's the fact that, like, in the first episode, they set up this whole I don't trust Negan, but I absolutely need him to get to my son, dynamic, which is proper. That's what needed to happen for the story to play out the way it is. But in the moment after they're following Esther, where Esther takes their bag, it's before the even opening credits of this episode. They're chasing Esther through the building so that they can get their bag back, and then they get to the zip line. There's the moment they get to the zip line where, and I do have a feeling why they did this, and I'll get to that in a minute as well. But there's a moment where Maggie says to Negan, "No, after you." Like, she allows Negan to go first. And I'm like, if you're giving this man that you don't trust any opportunity to not only get away but screw you in the process by not sending that zipline back, you're giving it to him right then and there. But then when she takes the zipline, she refuses help from him.
Right.
When she's hanging over the city. It's like, well, which one is it? Do you trust him enough to let him go first? Or do you not trust him enough that you don't want to accept this help? I kind of felt like it was a little jaded, if that makes sense, in that moment.
I have two thoughts on this, because I thought it was quite interesting as well. One is Maggie scared of heights? Genuine question.
That's the other thing. That's the thing I think they're setting up.
Because Maggie, when she's on the ladder, he says something like, "Eyes up, Maggie, or you'll throw your cookies over the side," which
You'll throw your cookies.
Yeah.
I think it's rather, and I think in the environment that they're in, where they're up in skyscrapers, I think setting up a fear of heights for Maggie is actually really smart.
Yeah.
Because it's going to add to some new fear dynamics along the way.
Yeah.
For Maggie. It's more challenging, because we know Maggie's a badass. We already know that. But to throw in something that now a fear that she now has to overcome, gives her more strength when she does it.
Yeah.
Good point.
The other thought I had that I think is a really clever acting choice that they've made since season 7 is that Negan and Maggie have never physically touched, as far as I can think. She's never allowed him to touch her in any way. He's never, obviously for whatever reason, they're not exactly, and I'm very glad, can I just say for the record, very glad they're not going there with any weird sort of sexual tension between the two of them, because that would be really disgusting. Maggie will not let Negan touch her in any way, and it was interesting to me that because that was stupid. She should have let him help her, because she was in a really precarious position there, and that did anger me in a way, because I was like, Maggie, don't be an idiot, like, let him help you. But to me, I mean, I'm sure listeners are going to be like, here are the 10 times in which Negan and Maggie do physically touch, but I'm pretty sure that if it has happened, it's very minimal, and the way that they keep that physical distance from one another is a really good way of continuing that tension in their performances. But I find the zip lines, full disclosure, I am scared of heights, so I'm finding the zip lines quite stressful. I would be like dead in a minute in Manhattan because I would not be able to use a zip line. But what if you got stuck in the middle? Like, what happens?
I know.
Then?
I don't have enough upper body strength to you need a lot of momentum.
I would fully be in the middle, just like, help.
See, Lucy, you and I are complete opposites. I'm not afraid of heights at all.
Oh, you love it.
I love zip lining. I've been zip lining before, and I Absolutely love it. I'd be the person in the group that would be looking for reasons to go out.
Amazing. That's why we should be in a group together. But yeah, it wasn't. I mean, in my head, I thought I would have said she's letting him go first so that if it goes wrong, he's the one that dies. But they've just seen that lady do it, so they know it's safe. So yeah, it seems like a bit of a weird judgment call to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean the not allowing him to help?
Not allowing him to help and making him go first, or saying you go first rather than me.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That felt kind of weird for me. It felt kind of like almost confusing as far as where her trust lies.
Yeah.
With me. Yeah. But I do understand if they are in fact setting up a fear of heights. I do understand the aspect of letting him go first, because then they could kind of explore it a little bit more with her on the zip line.
Yeah.
Because if she did have that moment where she was hanging over, I mean, if you did work it the other way and she went first and that still happened, there is the element of tension. Well, now Negan's stuck with the zombies quickly approaching. She now has to very quickly find a way to get over there so she could send it back. You could still find a way to build the tension, but
yeah,
I mean, I kind of get it, but it was a little confusing to me, like I said, from the character of Maggie's standpoint.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you.
But this whole time she's been cutting off her nose to spite her face. So, I mean, it kind of tracks, but yeah, I had the same questions.
Karen, what's a point that you want to bring up that we haven't yet?
That kind of goes into like how this episode did a lot more world building.
Yeah.
Through visuals and seeing that with the ziplining system, that necessity breeds invention. They had to come up with this system. Although, going back, it just makes me think about like Kevin McAllister and taking the pliers and cutting the rope. And that's exactly what the Croat did in the last episode. So, I don't know that it's a great system. I'm surprised that there's not like more chutes and slides, but maybe they don't have the materials for that, or like rappelling ropes and pulleys and levers and wheels that like we saw in season 11. Season 11, the premiere, they had like rappelling ropes, right? Going down into Fort Collins, and so I don't know. But I love the world building, the verticality, obviously, because specifically in Manhattan and New York, you have the skyscrapers, so they can't use escalators and elevators anymore. They had to come up with different systems. And I love that in season 9, they had to repurpose and refurbish a lot of different tools and objects. And we see that here with modified like construction tools as weapons, like the drill gun or the nail gun.
Man, that gun was awesome.
Oh my God, that was so...
It was like a harpoon or something, right?
Yeah. It rips out a chunk of your flesh.
Maggie was really taking notes. She was like, oh yeah, I like that.
And then like we just see how long these survivors have been in the apocalypse, because he knows to sharpen a pigeon bone and make it into a weapon. Negan did. Let me see what else.
You know what's funny? What's funny too, real quick, is that I didn't notice the pigeon bone until the second time I watched.
Right. Yeah.
The second time I watched that whole conversation with Maggie, you can see him. He is sharpening that pigeon bone on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You can watch him do it. And I never noticed him doing it the first time I watched.
Yeah.
Smart.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. That's a great point. Yeah, I didn't notice that either until the second watch. But you guys have already talked about it last week, the cinematic colors to fill out the world. It's dark and blue and teal and amber colors in the city, kind of like colder, darker, sterile. But then we got a lot of orange and blue hues as well in Hilltop. I don't know. Am I going too fast or
no? You're fine.
Anything to add?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Oh, I think I'm just jumping back and forth because there was a lot of blue. Like the carpet was blue, boxes were blue, the walls were blue in New York, and I like how they built out the world because there was like chipped paint. You saw this rusted TV, satellite dish. There's trash and detritus everywhere. And they also had newspapers taped to cover the windows and glass doors. And I guess that's to limit human and walker so that the walkers and humans don't detect movement. So it feels like you guys said last week, it feels very lived in. There's like vertical farming by potted flowers on the walls in the New Yorkers' dwelling place. So it was kind of cool. Yeah,
that was one of the things I made mention of last week, and I kind of feel the same way, even more so this week, even in some of the notes that you're making, is that I love shows or movies that make the city or the location that they're in a character.
Right.
Of the series, and New York feels even more so like a character in this episode. There's so many things that we notice in overhead views. We can see when the Barazzi are driving cars, which we still don't know how they have fuel, which I'm sure they're going to explain at some point. I mean, I've seen some like theories online, but until I see it on the series, I don't want to even make mention of it. We see there are roads cleared out. And side roads are full of dead cars so that you cannot go. So it's very clear paths have been made throughout the city. And New York City itself being nicknamed the city that never sleeps is so perfect and fitting for this setting, because it doesn't matter if it's daytime or nighttime. That's how this city is right now, with all these walkers. Still just, you are always in danger no matter what time of the day it is, because this city never sleeps. Even now, it still never sleeps. I just feel like it's so appropriate. And I love New York City in general, and I love seeing it as a character in the show.
I've never been to New York, and I really want to go. But I had to laugh because And Just Like That premiered the season 2 this week. So there was one very different New York, and then I was watching Dead City, and I was like, wonder how they all fared in the apocalypse. And the other,
I wonder how Samantha did.
And Just Like That, I was on a zip line, Samantha. If Samantha's not a warlord in post-apocalyptic Manhattan, I will eat my shoes. She is definitely living life.
Okay, so I've never seen Sex in the City or And Just Like That. Is Samantha Sarah Jessica Parker's character?
No, Samantha is Kim Cattrall.
Okay, then I can definitely see the warlord aspect. It's fine. Even just Kim Cattrall herself, I can see it.
Oh my god! The other New York reference that we were giggling about was when Esther appeared at the end of last week's episode. Peter just went, Lillian, like as in Lillian from Kimmy Schmidt, and he was like, "You can imagine that Lillian from Kimmy Schmidt would still be around in this stage in the apocalypse, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." So we got a bit distracted with that. She's played by oh goodness, Carol Kane in The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Which is Carol weird Kane? Because Esther kind of looks like Carol Kane.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
And we were just like, oh look, Lillian made it. So I was very sad that Esther didn't make it through the episode. But yeah.
I would wonder how Jake Peralta does.
Oh god.
During this whole thing. Is Jake Peralta still alive, and the rest of the 9-9?
Are they still fine? I agree with you that it's just a beautiful setting. I think the other thing that made me laugh a little bit, but was fascinating, was this group of survivors that Maggie and Megan are now. It's really hot. I'm so warm. My brain's going to mush. Maggie and
Megan. It's no worse than Jatreon for me last week.
Jatreon. I was trying to remember someone's name today in a conversation. I was like, their name is Cuthbert, which is, a very British name. And I was like, Chudders. And they're like, what? And I'm like, no, hang on. Chudney. And they're like, no, that's not their name. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's something completely different. So Britain is, very warm and everyone's gone crazy. But the thing I liked when we saw this group that they're now attached to is how impermanent where they're staying is. But the stuff that they had with them. So when Maggie and Negan walk into, firstly with Esther, it sort of reminded me of Entertainment 720 from Parks and Rec, like a big empty space. And I was like, oh, this is just like a startup.
Where's Jean-Ralphio?
Where's Jean-Ralphio and Tom Haverford? And then the next space that they move into, which seems to have been like almost like a library or a museum or something. It was a really cool building. I was also like, I've been to coffee shops like this. But I liked that they had like plants that they're clearly growing on the walls. They had they're constantly on the move. They're constantly in motion in a really exciting way that we haven't seen in other iterations of The Walking Dead, where things get quite stagnant and people stay in one place for a long time and defend one place. So seeing them settle into these spaces and kind of put those bits around was just really cool, and seeing how that looked and how it was appropriated in the apocalypse, I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's such a huge contrast to Hilltop 2.0 that's like awash in these earth tones and orange and amber tints. Yeah, and then we got that aerial shot. It was like really jarring, cutting from New York, and then all of a sudden we're at Hilltop. This aerial shot of like green fields and lots of like bricks, so it's like elemental living and thriving with life, whereas New York's like so sterile. Mm-hmm. And then my subtitles to introduce that scene, the subtitles said birds singing, so like there's a huge silent contrast to like the eerie silence and of Manhattan. And then more world building is the kids were learning about edible plants, and then the Southern Cross, which you can only see not in the United States except for Hawaii and like some of Florida. I learned, but it's cool that they're learning about celestial bodies and constellation for navigation and farming.
That was so awesome. I really enjoyed
it. Is anybody else still kind of confused about the geography of everything?
Yes, exceptionally.
Okay, so it's not just me. I mean, because what really threw me off this time with seeing Hilltop is we know this is a different Hilltop, or is it? I mean, that's still a question. There's a big hole in a brick wall. Mm-hmm. So is this the original Hilltop, like that they're still just kind of they've taken back? Is this the new Hilltop? They mentioned, that Ginny has just come to us from Oceanside. Mm-hmm. Okay, is this the original Oceanside that's back up again, or is this a new Oceanside that's like, okay, like I'm still very confused about the geography of everything that is happening.
Hard same.
Because if it's the same Hilltop and the same Oceanside, that is a big amount of distance from where they are to Manhattan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're talking a number of hours driving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is a good amount of distance. So I'm still very confused about the geography of everything.
Yeah. They've always kept geography and timelines vague, like kind of by design. But I think it doesn't really matter, but I think Nina was also covering for Ginny to say that she's from Oceanside. But
absolutely.
But
I
we
do
still
agree
know
with
that
that.
there's an Oceanside in play. You're right. Like we don't know how far away it is.
But it wouldn't be unusual for someone from Oceanside to be there. It's because I had the same. I can't remember if it was Randy or you, Ben, that said I had the same thing of like, oh, is Hilltop in New Babylon? Because they're really highlighting that sign as they go past. And I think it's not, but
that was my thought last week. Is like, oh, is New Hilltop in New Babylon? Like, because she drives past that sign, which pointed in that direction to New Babylon, which meant that, I know we're kind of backtracking a little bit talking about last week, but that meant that the bar that Maggie visited was not in New Babylon.
Yeah.
Because she passed the sign to go into New Babylon as she was leaving the bar. And then once they were in New Babylon is where she set off the flare to find her friend to get Ginny to Hilltop. So is New Hilltop in New Babylon? It's
we're gonna need a map.
I'm overthinking it. Yeah.
These things, they can get a bit distracting though. I do find that like usually I'm like pretty forgiving of it, but occasionally I'm a bit like, does this make sense? I don't know if this makes sense. So there are a couple of bits with the geography, and I feel like it's pretty certain that Ginny's going to turn up in Manhattan now that she's left New Hilltop. So I'm like, how is she going to do that? Like, it's got to be close if she's able. Anyway,
it has to be close enough that she knows how to get there.
Yeah.
And she can get there on a bike,
right?
Motorbike, but still, like,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. It's again, I don't think it's very important to the story where New Hilltop is, or this story is about everything that is happening in Manhattan. But to get real quick again, Karen, back to your earlier point about the jarringness of the colors, that was one of the things I really liked about the first episode, was how they really set it apart, these two environments, purely by color, and they're continuing to do that even further so that when they go to one of those different locations, there's no doubt in your mind where you are at.
Yeah.
You are either in New Babylon or you are in Manhattan, purely by the color scheme that they're using. And I really love that. From a cinematic point of view, I really like that.
Yeah.
Agree.
I guess so. Talking going a little bit back to setting things up. We talked a little bit about how the possibility of just setting Maggie up with a fear of heights, which I appreciate. It's going to add some overcoming a fear to Maggie's story. Maybe I'm wrong about this, and I'm curious about your opinions on this as well. We get that little bit of flashback to Maggie and Herschel. And Herschel, very teen, angsty, like he's not showing up to self-defense practices or weapons training, whatever it is you want to call it. And he feels like, well, maybe then I'll be dead. Maybe this is an opinion that he feels like he's better off being dead. I don't know. But I'm wondering if this is going to set up Herschel being very impressionable by the Croat, where it's actually going to take some convincing for Maggie to get him to leave.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Especially in the way last episode ended with the Croat telling Herschel, I think you're going to like it here.
I hadn't thought of this at all until I was listening to you and Randy, Ben, and I was like, oh, twist. Yes. Yeah. Because what comes across, I was really glad they flashed back because I'm not finding Ginny's story that interesting. So when we were there for quite a while, I was like, okay. So when they flashed and it was actually Maggie and Herschel, I was like, oh, okay. Lauren Cohen does not look old enough to be his mother.
No, I thought that too.
But ironically,
season 2 Maggie.
She looked like season 2 Maggie. And ironically, I think Lauren Cohen's like in her early 40s. So like she could be the mum of a child that age. But I'm just like, no, you don't look old enough to be his mum. But I loved it because I loved the idea that like maybe in her grief, Maggie is fiercely overprotective. Maybe she hasn't been able to let him have a childhood of like fun and joy in the way that he would have liked to have had, and maybe that's something that's going to come back and sort of bite her and him. Maybe she's been living in the past again for understandable reasons, but maybe that's something that's having a knock-on effect of just they're not bonded in some way, or they're not as close as they once were, or things are tense between them, or Herschel's just being a teenage boy, but it's being exacerbated by being in the zombie apocalypse. And I guess having to live up to the legacy of his dad, or that trauma of this person he'll never know that he can see is still, traumatizing his mum. And we still have the payoff from that conversation he and Negan had in season 11 about you and me will settle this one day, kid. And for like when people first said that might come back in Dead City, I was like, yeah, sure, the 9-year-old is going to try and kill Negan. But now that they've aged him up a little bit, I'm like, oh, maybe they will.
Well, not only that, but like you throw that into the mix of like I said, the potential of them making Herschel someone who's going to maybe be difficult to reel in and to come home. Like when Maggie shows up and finally is face to face with Herschel, I don't believe he's going to go running right back to her. I think this is going to be, and forgive me the comparison, because I love this movie, this is a Hook situation.
Yes.
Where Captain Hook kidnapped Peter Pan's kids and brainwashed them that they were better off with Hook.
Yep. Oh my God, Hook's amazing. Yes.
And I feel like this is almost going to be a very similar situation where you have the Croat who's going to make Herschel feel like he's welcome in this group. Again, I think you're going to like it here. And then throw in the aspect that Maggie is working with Negan, the man who killed his father.
Yes.
Right.
And the Croat knows this. He's going to use this to his advantage. At least I'm predicting he is going to use this to his advantage. And he's going to get Herschel to be like, well, your mother is working with the man that killed your father. There they are together right now.
Oh,
and that's going to work against Maggie.
Yep.
When it comes to getting Herschel back.
It's so true.
Herschel's going to have to be convinced to come home.
Yeah.
You guys are blowing my mind right now. Yeah.
What's that?
You guys are blowing my mind right now. I think you're right too. That would be like so much more interesting too. And
it would make it such more a dynamic story than just like, oh, I'm here, I rescued my son, let's go home. Like, no, it's not going to be. It's already not as easy. It's already not an easy chore, but it's going to be so much harder than you think it is.
Yeah, and
the only question is, like, the Croat thought of all that and he knew that Maggie was going to retrieve Negan and to help him. I mean, and then
that's the only part.
His revenge on Negan.
I'm not convinced he knew Maggie was going to go to Negan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be something that's going to become a little bit of a surprise to him.
Okay, but he wanted Herschel anyway.
Yeah, I think maybe it was just opportunistic. Like, he comes to the community and realizes who it is and who the son is, and is like, oh, I have a chance here to make a little soldier. I think it's worth noting as well that we're far out of the comic material now, but in the comics, Herschel's not particularly nice at the end. Nope. He's not evil. He's not an evil villain. He doesn't kill people, but without going too much into it, the last issue of the comic deals with, for both Carl and Herschel, what it's like to grow up in the shadow of the things that have happened before. And Peter did lean over during the time. He's like, do you think they are going to make Herschel as much of a dickhead in the show? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I think he's had a very different life from what Herschel in the comics has, and that's different. But the idea that you could make him more complex and problematic in that way, I think is really cool. To have it be not as easy as him just coming back to his mom, I think that would be awesome. And if the script writers are listening and want to do any rewrites, then you should email Beth and get credit.
I don't think I'm going to need to take credit, because I think that's where we're going. I really do. I think it's, again, it's Hook. It's Hook all over again, except with Maggie, Negan, and the Croat as Captain Hook.
Oh.
I mean, it's, I think Herschel is going to take some convincing to come home. It's not going to be as simple as Maggie showing up, putting her arms out, and he's going to run right to her.
No.
I don't think that's going to be the case at all.
Yeah.
Lucy, you mentioned the comics. I remember there's, not to give too much away, but they do mention that Maggie has been away from Herschel a lot in the comics as well.
Yeah.
And we see that here in the show because they're only on screen together like maybe 30 minutes total in season 11 because, okay, so she went after the Reapers in 11A, then she abandoned him again for Riverbend in 11B, and he asked, how long will you be gone this time? And she says, as long as it takes. And then in Commonwealth, he gets kidnapped in 11C. So they're like never really together. And in this scene, like, he never meets his mother's gaze, right? He never looks up, or
he's not interested at all. He won't even accept her love when she tries to give it. Like, he's like, no, I don't want that. I'd rather destroy this.
This drawing is really good. No, it sucks.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, all right, teen angst. Like, come on.
I know. I was like, put your Nirvana CD on, Herschel. God.
Let's go podcast.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that's podcast from Ghostbusters.
Oh man.
I still can't believe that. He's sprouted up. So any further notes on that theory or where we're going with Herschel?
Not so much that theory, but it was one of my points that scene I love so much because we haven't seen Herschel and Maggie together a lot, and I'm always invested in Glenn and Maggie, and it was one of my nitpicks from last week was like, I hope they don't make Herschel just a MacGuffin, just like another object to motivate Maggie. But now that you're saying all this, Ben and Lucy, like, I'm getting really excited about where it might go. But the scene reminded me of people nowadays who are displaced because of war, famine, or climate-related weather conditions, as Lucy knows right now. And we said earlier, the New Yorkers had to pack up a lot and move, and Maggie's had to do that a lot too. And so she's become trained to be hypervigilant and process her fears that way. The more frequent a traumatic experience happens, the more neural pathways we put in our brain to like, until like panic is the only default response. And I guess like Herschel's only seen that part of Maggie because she has that line, I can't keep telling you to be ready. And so he hasn't experienced any of it. But it reminds me of, you know, anybody's parents were always like, put on a jacket when you go out, or like, don't talk to strangers, don't do this, don't do that, you know, and he's just over it. And he hasn't experienced everything. And I think he just wants to live and draw his superheroes, and be in this, you know, he just wants to live, which is interesting because in season 4, Maggie's the one who told Glenn, like, I don't want to be afraid of being alive, and breathing isn't the same as living. But that was before she saw Herschel Sr. and Beth and Glenn die, and before like all the raids from the Reapers. And so I can see where both of them are coming from. Did you guys catch that he was drawing a superhero?
Mm-hmm.
That was so cool.
And it looked like Darkwing from Invincible.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah. Which Lenny James voices, and obviously Stephen Yeun is Invincible.
Oh, that could have been a cool little Easter egg if that's what they did.
Yeah. So
it's so I feel like so sad for Herschel in so many ways, because he grows up, he must have questions about his heritage, about like his dad being Korean and what that means, and Maggie's just at a loss for that because she probably didn't have a chance to talk to Glenn about all of that stuff prior. You know, they were really together for quite a short amount of time, and that's not to devalue their relationship, but like, I don't know, the things you want to know when you're a kid, or the things that you need to know to feel connected to your family and who you are.
Right.
And so much of that for Maggie is just rooted in trauma. Like, you're named after your grandfather whose head was chopped off in front of us at the prison. Like, you had an aunt, but she got shot or stabbed with scissors or something weird at a hospital. And like, oh yeah, your dad was bludgeoned to death brutally in front of all of us. Anyway, what would you like for dinner? Like, it's just, you know, there's so much there. Like, there's no... I worry that I've come off as being quite critical of Maggie as a parent, because I think there's no right way to do it in the best situations. But in this episode, I don't know, you get the feeling that Maggie's really... there's just no levity at any point. Like, we're always seeing her in absolute crisis mode.
Yeah.
Defense mode, and that's difficult.
Well, and you got to throw on top of that, too, the two things that you have to throw on top of that, at least in my opinion, are, to anybody who might be thinking like, oh, you're being overly critical of a parenting. First off, we're in a situation that none of us have ever experienced, and hopefully none of us will ever experience, and that's an apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know how your parenting style is going to be in this situation, so you can't really judge somebody else's, because this is being written from a non-existent situation.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, at the same time, you also have to throw in the fact that, yes, like, Maggie is in the world that she's in, but she's also a leader in the world that she is in, which is so much more pressure than just being a parent in this environment. You're also throwing in leadership abilities. There are so many other people that look to you, or look to her rather, than just Herschel.
Yeah.
So she has a lot of added pressure that nobody else or so many other people don't have.
Yeah.
Heavy hands ahead. Yeah.
Exactly. That just, you know, so you kind of almost do, when you throw that in the perspective, you do kind of understand a little bit why there might be this separation in relationship between Maggie and Herschel.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that in that flashback, they show that even though there is that separation, she's still making the attempt.
Oh, yeah.
To be close.
Oh, God, yeah. She loves him so much.
Exactly. She's admiring his artwork. She's praising him for his artwork. He's just in a very vulnerable point in his life right now.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's going to come around full circle, because the Croat's going to take advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be a good twist for the story, for the stakes.
Yeah. Anything else on that? If not, Lucy, do you have another point?
Yes. Sorry, I feel like I've derailed our points entirely.
No, it's fine.
It's kind of nice. It just going with the things that come up. I've got stuff about Maggie here. I think, Hilltop 2.0, we've spoken about. I guess one thing I would add to that is that one of the things that chimed with me is I was like, I really wish we would just see people we knew from the main show here. I know it's not going to happen, but it would be nice to see, like, I don't know, Lydia comes to deliver something, or Aaron's there. But I was like, yeah, that will not happen in this show for contracting reasons. I guess one of the things we haven't spoken about at all is the Armstrong storyline. Is it Armstrong?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Pearly Armstrong.
Pearly.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, it didn't do much for me. It felt like something we'd seen in a lot of different situations before, and I didn't feel connected enough to him to kind of really engage with it. But I am interested to know what the Croat plans for him at the end. I can't help but worry that he is going to get tortured. But it was an interesting thing to throw into the mix of him suddenly ending up in the belly of the beast with the Croat. And I loved the trap. I thought that was very cool and very clever. And the idea of the Croat going around and emptying these traps at the end of the day and seeing who'd been picked up in them. It's just so sinister. And it adds to this sense of like the floor is lava, don't go down onto the streets because that's where the danger is. It's always cool to see pre-apocalyptic homes after the apocalypse. But yeah, with Armstrong, I just felt a bit like, I'm not as invested in this as I'd like to be. It was a very well shot scene. I couldn't help but wonder, Sex and the City, I couldn't help but wonder how long the person he was visiting had been dead for, because he looked remarkably well preserved.
I thought that too. Like, I felt like it couldn't have been any longer than maybe a couple years.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Mm-hmm. He looks normal. So yeah, I guess is that overly critical of me to be like, I just wasn't that into it, or how did you both find it? I'd be interested to know, because I just don't know where we're supposed to stand on him yet. And at the start we see him slumped against a wall. Had Maggie moved him, or has he moved himself to that position where he's like sitting up and stuff? Because I think the last time we saw him he was like on the ground with his gun. So I'm kind of interested in that.
Well, I feel like so to answer the second question first, Randy and I talked a little bit about this, where, she threw the gun behind him, and then the next scene we see is that he is gone from that position. I feel like he woke up and kind of hid himself away without taking the gun. I think last week we mentioned him picking up the gun when he left, because we didn't see the gun either. But I think we were incorrect in that assessment, in that the gun was still there, because we do see him peeing around the corner to see the gun. Yeah. And then we do see his other marshal that he shot is one of the ones or not the one that he shot, the one that was attacked at the door. Window. Is reanimated. To get to your first point about Purdy, if there's any one character in this series I feel like they nerfed, to use Karen's term, it's Purdy. I think Pearly. Pearly. You just made Pearly seem like a little fish in a big pond, in that he came across so intimidating in that first episode, like walked in, talked about these punishments. I'm here for this. I'm here for that. And in this, you have a guy who's banging on walls, breaking down doors in a city where there are millions of walkers.
Yeah.
He is very clearly showing the inexperience that he has.
Yep.
He has never been in a situation like this before, and it shows. And then the first thing he does as soon as he escapes is he gets caught in a trap.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I'm like, this guy is either he's putting up an incredibly false, intimidating front, because he does not know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I feel like if there's any character they downgraded or nerfed, it's him.
Oh god, yeah. I forgot he was the scary
I hope
guy.
that picks up, but yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like he was too much of an archetype last week, but if it's like all performative, that makes me feel a little better, because last week he was like barking, I'm gonna, capture him and hang him and cut him lengthwise or whatever. And then I felt like it was like, oh brother, this is just a caricature. And I was kind of disappointed, because he's like any other, officer or whatever. But and then now that you say it, it's like, it's a performance, or he's actually inexperienced maybe.
In this episode, he was more like Michael Scott wandering around without his wallet and phone. It's just like, I'm going to go up the building. Like, oh, okay.
But maybe that's just it. Maybe that's something they're doing with his character to kind of maybe make him more similar to Negan, in that, like, I put on a show to protect my people. If that's the case, that's exactly who he is. That's what he does as well. Yeah. Him and Negan are more alike than he probably cares to admit.
Yeah.
He puts on this false front in this show to protect the people of New Babylon, when in reality, he's not that person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to get him in trouble, because now he's in the, I don't even want to say the care of the Croat, because I don't think it's care, but now he's in the custody probably of the Croat, because his inexperience made him overconfident.
Right.
That he thought he could just wander into Manhattan, chase these people down, maybe find my brother, and then just bring them on home. Nerf.
Yep.
Now he's lost the trail because he went on a side mission, or going to find his brother. So like, how's he going to catch up to Maggie and Negan? I don't know.
I mean, if I'm wrong about that, or you feel differently, please let me know.
No, that's really insightful. I didn't even pick up on that when he was smashing the doors in, but I'm like, yeah, that's definitely going to draw walkers. And
yeah.
Well, not only that, I mean, like, even before he enters the building, he's just casually walking down the street, holding this address in his hand, like with no regard to any kind of outside situation. I mean, he's out in the open. He's not even trying to be stealthy about moving around, because you're in a city of tall skyscrapers. Anybody could be watching you at any point and can see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found it a little off-putting that they kind of, they went this route with this character so quickly, unless, as I mentioned, it is to eventually make that comparison that him and Negan are very similar.
Yeah. It felt tonally so different, didn't it, from the intro to this week? It was like, this is very...
Right.
Yeah. I guess it didn't do it for me as a storyline. I'd like to see where it goes next, but I feel just not engaged enough with that particular character. I just don't know what... Yeah, is the Croat going to torture him? Is he going to try and recruit him? Like, I'll be interested to see.
Yeah, I mean, because the whole storyline with his brother, going to his brother's apartment and finding his brother, having committed suicide however long ago, not to mention the fact that you could tell his brother was already a very troubled person, in that there's a crack pipe on the stove.
Yeah.
So he was very clearly like either into drugs or an addict. And you can see how somebody who was in that situation at one point in their life could go back down that road in a situation like this.
Yeah.
And then he breaks out a gun and he, commits suicide. I feel like they threw that in to maybe throw some sympathy and make him more sympathetic of a character. But I also feel like if you just took that out completely and maybe thrown it in as if like, okay, he's out there trying to catch their trail again and then gets caught in the trap.
Yeah.
Like you could have taken the whole brother aspect out and it really wouldn't have changed anything.
Right. Unless I just can't see how it would pay off in a later episode. Like, unless it pays off later, but then I'm like, how? Like, that's sad that your brother died. Like, okay.
I don't know.
I think it was purely for sympathy. And then we see that. Well, it's interesting that like he was doing drugs because Pearlie threw out Michelle Hurd's character because she was drugs and alcohol and whoredom or whatever in the last episode, and he laid rosary beads on his brother after covering him up too, right? So there's that. I guess it keeps on making me think of Javert again from Les Mis.
Which was a great comparison, by the way. Loved that comparison.
Although, Ben, you missed my favorite Michelle Hurd fact.
Wait. So I mentioned Picard.
Who's she married to?
Last week.
I think I know.
Garrett Dillahunt.
Is she?
Yeah. It's like my favorite.
Did not know that.
I didn't know it till really recently. I was Googling one or the other of them, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? And Peter's like, what? And I'm like, two hot people are married to each other. And he was like, what? And I'm like, Michelle Hurd and Garrett Dillahunt are married. He's like, oh, okay.
So one actress is the reason is I was happy to see in a show that I'm enjoying is married to an actor who once he died, I stopped watching that show completely.
Right. I'm wondering like what the conversation at home was like. Michelle's like, so Garrett, I got a call from Walking Dead. And he's like, I can't. Like, I'm leaving the room. Fuck this.
That is an interesting point too, because I think it was revealed that he wasn't very happy.
No, he wanted to go, right?
With the way his character was going and with production of the show and such, and that's one of the reasons why he decided to leave. So yeah, so how did that conversation go at home when she gets a call from AMC like, hey, we have this role.
I think you'd be great.
It's in the Walking Dead universe.
I'm like, maybe they're not married anymore. I hope they are. I feel that was a bit of a waste of Michelle Hurd last week. I was really surprised that she got killed off. I was like, oh right, okay. Yeah. Wasn't expecting that. I thought she might be around a little longer. So, oh well, it'd be good if she comes back in something else.
I feel like I bogarted your point about Pearlie. I apologize.
No, not at all. I
feel like I kind of overtook it.
No, not at all. Because I think it was I genuinely was just left a bit like, all right, about it. Like, I don't know, when I was rewatching, I was just a bit like. Like, I don't know, it's hard. It's like we all rightly say, it humanizes them a bit to know that they had this. But I'm now like, at this point, I'm like, every fucker still alive in the apocalypse has lost somebody. Like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, we know that you probably had a complex relationship with somebody you love dearly who's no longer here anymore. Like, there's part of me that's just like, did we need to see it again? Like, does this, but maybe it will pay off later in a decision that he makes or something like that. But I just felt we were indulging a bit much in that, and I think because I'm feeling a bit frustrated with the Ginny storyline so far, I think I was like, I'm more interested in what's happening with Maggie and Negan in quite a vital way, so I'd rather be spending time there. So maybe I was being a bit judgmental in that sense.
No,
you're right though. Like, this is a world that you're living in where it's kind of like, if you didn't lose somebody at this point, you never had anybody to begin with.
Yeah, right. You're just like, for me now, humanizing would be like, actually, I didn't like anyone and I'm glad all my family and neighbors died. I'd be like, oh, okay, that's new.
If you didn't lose anybody, then you never had anybody. And that's almost sadder than losing someone.
Yeah. It's like back at the start, like seasons 1 through 3 of The Walking Dead, when we still had some like biological or formed family units intact. Like at the start of season 3, we had Laurie, Carl, and Rick were all there. We had, Carol and Sophia at the start of season 2.
Yeah, Herschel and Maggie.
We still had people where it was like, oh, we're together. We've lost some along the way. But now, it's all chosen family. It's all kind of, loss is what binds you together. It's not a huge reveal to see that. So I guess I was just a bit like, if I cared more about these characters, I might care a bit more about this. But for now, I'm just going to keep going with my notes sort of thing. But I'm glad he's in with the Croat now, because that's kind of, it's bringing the storylines together a bit, because it did feel a bit like he and Ginny have set loose for this episode and now they're kind of coming back to the fold. And I'm a bit like, could have just kept them there to start with. But anyway, it's fine. I think.
That's a good point about like the relationship aspects and the stakes and having attachments, because I feel like when shows spin off, they don't always